Okay, as I've said many times, the statement that all things are relative is not an absolute. Now, obviously, a lot of people think, oh, it must be an absolute, but this automatic belief is actually satisfied by the most efficient technical reason that you wouldn't expect it to be an absolute, and that is that language is not absolute. I would expect that for a statement with terms to be absolute, the terms would have to have absolute definitions, and they don't. Our dictionaries keep being revised. We're changing our understanding of definitions all the time, so it's pretty hard to say that a statement could be absolute given that foundation. But I think maybe there is a more intuitive uh, explanation than that as well. And it's just to simply think about, what does it mean? To say that everything is relative was an absolute means that it is held to be true in all reference frames, all possible reference frames. Okay. So when I say that I believe that statement, but it is not absolute, that simply means that I don't believe it's true for all reference frames, because I don't have access. I can't test against all reference frames. And I don't believe that, and then according to general relativity, I believe it's just a material fact, a fact of material relativism, that you can't formalize all the possible reference frames. Okay, if you were able to formalize all possible reference frames into some formalism that you can then do an induction over and say that the statement's true by induction over all reference frames, then that formalism would be a reference frame, and it would just be a single reference frame, not the multiplicative one. So basically, by material relativism, the universe as a whole is fundamentally, complex. You cannot consider it as a single reference frame. There is no single reference frame that can encompass it. So, what reference frames do I hold that everything is relative, is a truth within? Well, one for human beings, largely, primarily in a practical sense, because of perspectivism. Forget the material relativism at the fundamental physical level of energy and particle interaction and this sort of thing, but just perspectivism. You get one set of facts, I get another set of facts. So even of the set of potential facts that I, in my reference frame, have access to, or could have access to, or would be true if I got access to them, I only get a subset of those, and you, with shared reference frame, get a different subset. So right there, things are relative for human beings just because of that, and also other related facts, like the facts that we don't get them perfectly correct, and they're not always they're not going to be complete as well. Okay. Also, of course, there is the material relativism of materialism, and the fact that our brain is material, and I believe we could deduce that for any creature that is cognitive, which is to say has some sort of central nervous system, it's also going to have everything as relative, because it's going to be collecting information. And I would extend that really to all life forms that collect information, however stupid and how much like a robot or an automaton they may be. It doesn't matter in this case. If the system is behaving in such a way that it collects and acts on information, then I believe everything is going to be relative to that information collection and the way that it does analyze it. When we get to materialism, it's different, because there's not going to be a perspectivism, but that's where we have general relativity. Now, is this kind of relativity true in all reference frames? It's the only candidate, but it's still difficult to argue that. I don't think that there is an argument or the need for an argument. I think we can allow that there are possible reference frames in which things are not relative. They'd just be very, very boring universes. Um, so I'm not sure how such a universe as that would work. So when I say everything is relative, it's not absolute because of all these other unknown reference frames. It's only true for humans and mammals, insects, birds, plants, bacteria, algae, and stones, photons, and all the elements. Maybe it's not relative for, I don't know, the Higgs boson.